Hey friends, welcome to another pod, Whoop with Jen. I'm overwhelmed today because I'm actually not recording out of my usual studio, which is, as you all know, my dining room. So my dogs aren't here, so there will be no dog interference today. But I am at the SAP offices in Tempe, Arizona. And SAP is the largest software company in the world, founded in Germany and now operates in 170 companies with a strong presence in the United States. And they provide technology to help businesses run better and make people's lives better. And I am blessed with the presence of a gentleman here named Jose Velasco. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you.
And Jose is in charge of an SAP program called Autism at Work. And he's in town today, and he agreed to give me a snippet of his valuable time. And I am so honored that you're here and sharing your experience with me and sharing with the world what this Autism at Work program is like and how you've even expanded it outside of SAP. So welcome, Jose. I would think that everyone would love to hear a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today, and hello, everyone. Well, my name is Jose Velasco, and I have been with SAP for close to 21 years now. I started my career as a technologist, and I didn't get too far away from that area over the first, I would say, 15 years of my career. I have been in the industry for 30 years, so that adds up to about 25 years of IT software-specific experience. In 2013, SAP made an announcement that we would have, it's an aspirational objective to have 1% of our workforce represented by people in the autism spectrum. And at the time, I was at home, and I live in Austin, Texas, and I was working from home, and I was reading my email like I always do in the morning. And this headline in one of the subject matters of one of the emails said, "Autism at Work," caught my attention. And the reason is I have two children, adult children, that are in the autism spectrum. So I read the email, and I could not believe that a company, much like my company, was launching such a progressive initiative to give people in the autism spectrum an opportunity. During that time, our kids were transitioning away from the high school years, and that's when the proverbial yellow bus stops coming and the supports end or start diminishing. After that, going into junior college, if the individual has the opportunity to do that, and then less type of supports if you start joining the labor market. So when we read this, when I read this email, my wife had gone and dropped off the kids, and I just could not wait for her to come back and share this with her. And we read it together, not once, not two times, but three times.
Like a celebration.
And it was like,
this
is great. And my wife said, "You have to do something about this."
Absolutely.
And I was a vice president in product management, so I had nothing to do really with HR or diversity and inclusion. But I raised my hand and I sent an email to our chief diversity officer and said I would like to volunteer because this was announced as a global program. And of course, more excitement as well, from our side, because we thought, we live in the U.S. and we are, a company based out of Germany. And I said I would like to play a role in this program in the United States. So I started with as a volunteer in the program. I launched the very first two implementations. We planned in a very naive way for 4 months to have anywhere between 10 to 15 colleagues in the autism spectrum at SAP in Palo Alto and in our business headquarters in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, in a period of 4 months. And again,
those are big, lofty goals.
They are very
It's hard
much
to hire
so.
that many people who are typical in that time frame.
It is, but I guess combination of enthusiasm and being naive worked out really well. And not only that, but we had the incredible support of more than 80 employees from SAP from different functions that saw this as something that we needed to do as a company, something that was going to be transformational in the workplace and in society. So when you have that level of enthusiasm from people, when you have people that are really believing in this type of ideas, things go much faster and the processes are much smoother. So back to my day when I was at home with my wife, we were so excited about this as a family because we saw this opportunity for our kids to one day have the dignity of work.
And the dignity of work in a large global organization, because so many of those transitional programs shorthand them. They kind of hand them off to bagging groceries, which is a very profound profession. If that's the skill level, that might be where my daughter ends up. But I think to take on that challenge and expect to fill these positions at a grade level and expect the same performance is huge, because don't we all want our kids to have that expectation that they can achieve just whatever any typical adult could achieve?
Absolutely, and that's really the very spirit of the program. We are hiring individuals in the autism spectrum in our core business. And what that means is, as a software company, we hire people in software jobs. But we are like every other company out there. We have a procurement organization, and we have a sales organization, we have an HR organization. In finance and administration, we have back office processes that support the operation. So while we are a technology company, we hire people into all of these different roles. But just to give you an idea, when we launched the program, we thought we would hire people in the autism spectrum in two different types of roles: software development and data quality analysis. Coding, yes. Because we knew, or we were basically, the common belief, let's put it that way, was that people in the spectrum had this affinity to science, technology, engineering, and math jobs. But very quickly we realized that folks in the spectrums have dreams and aspirations like everybody else. And in a very organic way, we expanded the program. Today we count with close to 24 different types of roles, ranging from human resources to graphic designers to people that work in communications. We have people that are in consulting. We have product managers. We have HR associates. We have data scientists. We have moved into a mentality in the program where we say we're not having jobs for people in the autism spectrum. We have jobs where we happen to find the right person that has the right skills who happens to be in the autism spectrum. It's a completely different way of looking at things.
I think that's amazing, because obviously my experience is limited to spoiler alert, my husband works at SAP. That's how I'm here. And he's had an individual on the spectrum, and he's on more of the techie side. And I just think that's so amazing that you haven't just pigeonholed a skill set, and that you've been able to identify individuals who can be successful in multiple roles across the entire company.
Absolutely. What happens is, if we look at this like we do with any other dimension of diversity and inclusion, you can go back 100 years when certain groups of both cultural or ethnic groups, where if you were from certain nationality or whatever, you would be earmarked for certain types of roles, or if you were a man or a woman, you would be going into certain types of functions or roles. And we don't want to do this. I mean, today we have people from all nationalities, all cultures working in all kinds of jobs. We have people from the gender fluidity that are basically getting jobs in every position they can. We have women that are astronauts, women that are presidents, right? And this is
Yay, women!
Yes, and these were things that were not, considered 100 years ago. Okay, and I think we can't go back to that based on a disability label, where somebody in the autism spectrum, because you are in the spectrum, you're going to be doing this and this and this job.
So how do you source? Because I'm assuming that there's HIPAA or employment practices law that you're not allowed to probably ask someone if they're on the spectrum or if they have a disability. How do you find these candidates to fill these positions?
The first part of the answer is we don't have an issue finding them. Okay?
Do they find you?
They find us. Okay.
And how do they find you? Is it because you partner with institutions that are locally based, like? We have SARC here in Arizona, which is the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, and they have an employment services program. So I know they're trying to connect with, hiring companies. But is that how you get most of your candidates? Is through a partner or a referral?
When we started the program, we're doing exactly that. So we partner with nonprofit community services providers that had those contacts in the community to identify people. And we would go out to them and tell them we have this 3 or 4 job openings, keeping in mind that those were the pilot days of our program, okay, when we were experimenting with different practices. And they provided us with some candidates. But then after that, we had a number of articles and television segments and so on that have provided coverage for the program. And that has created a very significant pipeline of people in the hundreds of people
Amazing.
that we have for the
Throughout
program.
the world.
No, not just in the U.S. alone. Okay, just in the U.S. alone. And when we talk to universities, one university tells us that they have about 500 students in the autism spectrum. Another university in California told us they have 128. Another one, Rowan University in the Northeast in New Jersey, they have a very specialized program for colleagues or students that are neurodiverse. They have about 120 students in the autism spectrum. Now, just 3 universities have about 1,000 students.
That's amazing. That's absolutely mind-boggling for me.
So for the workplace, it's important for us to be ready, to be able to catch this wave of talent that is coming at us.
And
right?
how do you assess what's going to be the right fit for them? And how do you onboard them? And what type of support is there for them once they become an SAP employee?
This is a very, very important question. Because if you look at some of the trajectories that many folks in the spectrum have had, they've had significant challenges in their lives before. And the last thing that we want to be is another challenge for them. So we are trying to be as mindful as we can to map the right opportunities and the right profiles to the right jobs at SAP. We have had individuals that come to us, and we understand our environment really, really well. So we partner with those third-party NGOs, non-governmental organizations, service providers, who knows about our culture and they know very intimately what we do in the company and in the different types of roles and so on. And they can make a recommendation whether they see a person having a decent shot at being able to sustain a long-term job at our company. And again, we look at this very seriously because we want to have as much of a chance of success for the individuals in the spectrum. We have a retention rate of colleagues in the spectrum in the mid-90s, 90%.
I think that's an incredible retention rate because I think a lot of companies don't have that retention rate amongst their entire employee base.
That is correct.
And SAP has a very loyal group of employees too. So
we are on a par. Actually, we are on a par with the neurotypical population, which I think is huge. For us, it's huge. For us that work in the program, and we have created the appropriate structures and the appropriate supports and the appropriate mechanisms to make sure that our colleagues are comfortable. And for us, retention is an incredible thing because many companies out there, not saying explicitly SAP, but companies in our industry, the replacement cost of an employee can be anywhere between 30 to 100% of the yearly salary of a person, and people don't realize that. So losing an employee that is trained and productive, has an impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, it has a productive impact and it has a financial impact.
Very
and it probably has an emotional impact too.
For everybody, absolutely.
Well, congratulations on that retention.
Thank you.
So what is, I was reading an article that was published actually in a UK journal. And one of the things they talked about was the extensive team that you build around these employees. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think maybe I can share with everybody here on the podcast the process that we have to onboard and to retain people and to support people. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right.
I love that.
We have 5 phases that we run in the program. We have sourcing and screening, and then we have pre-employment training, then we have the onboarding process, and then we have the retention process. And then, of course, there's always, because we are all going to separate from a company one day, a separation process, right? Some of it, hopefully, will be at the end of one's career, but sometimes people elect to have jobs somewhere else, right? And we need to learn about their experience as they separate from the company. So let's start with the sourcing and the screening. What we do is we partner with these NGOs, with nonprofit organizations that have experience in disability employment. We work very closely with the ARC of Philadelphia in the Philadelphia area. And what happens is we received inquiries from people in the spectrum, and we route them to the ARC of Philadelphia, and they help us with those initial conversations to understand what are the aspirations of the individuals. We've had situations in which some people were asked to apply. And when I say ask, it was mom and dad that said, you need
Give
to
my kid a job.
Give my kid a job. Exactly.
I feel that way about my triple teenage son, though, by the way.
No, we all do. We all do. So we've had a situation like that, and during that pre-screening call, or interview, if you will, with the ARC, which is not an interview, it's a conversation, it's a meet and greet type of thing. The young man was asked, why do you want to work in the software industry? And in typical autism fashion, being very honest, said, I don't want to work in the software industry. I am a biologist, and I'd like to work in health sciences, but my mom thought it would be a good idea for me to get a job here.
Thank goodness for transparency.
Thanks goodness for that. And that's something, that one of the traits that we value, a lot from our colleagues and our prospects. So that screening process that is done is to try to understand, if there's a match, if the skills of the individuals are on par with what we're expecting in the company. And when we talk about skills, we talk about general skills for an enterprise type of setting. And then we look at the more domain-specific skills like, programming or whatever happens to be the jobs that we are hiring for at that point in time. Once people go through the screening process, we identify a number of people, anywhere between 20 to 25, that they go into a cohort-based training, okay? And this is pre-employment training.
How long is the training last?
It's 6 weeks.
That's intense.
That is intense. And we moved recently from an on-site training that was at SAP to one that is 3 weeks online and 3 weeks on-site. Okay, so that way the individuals get to know how to interact in our ever intense, connected world.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a good skill for most of us.
Absolutely.
To know how to interact with people via Skype, email,
Absolutely.
phone calls, texts, because we are living in a virtual world and we can do so many things that don't have to be in a physical location.
And that's precisely why we introduce things. And we discover some things through this training that some individuals, the text chat that we have in this type of tools, you have somebody teaching the class online, and you have a chat box on the side with people asking questions or commenting, that a lot of people that don't have maybe verbal fluidity, they have fluidity in that text box,
format,
which allows you to better understand also some of their skills, right, and how they communicate better, okay? So what we do through this 6 weeks is get an opportunity to get to know the individuals and for them to get to know SAP, okay? And what we try to do is also try to understand where they might need coaching, okay, going forward. So it is a discovery process, both on the side of the person in the spectrum as well as for us. Of the 20 or 25 people that come into the training, majority of them don't have a job waiting for them at the end of the training. Okay.
Okay. So it's a leap of faith that they're going to commit to this to see if there's going to be an opportunity down the road.
It is, but I'll tell you what, from a personal perspective,
that's a huge investment for SAP to make in people they may or may not eventually hire.
The one thing that is important to mention here is that we have been partnering with the Vocational Rehabilitation Department of the state of Pennsylvania, has been a tremendous partner, and also with the nonprofit organization, the ARC of Philadelphia. So we have this three-way partnership that allows for them to manage all of the outside of SAP logistics of where people are going to stay and how people are going to fly in and who's going to pay for the training. The funding actually in many cases has come from the vocational rehabilitation departments of the states where they are coming from. So we have a young man from Arizona that participated already in this training a year plus ago. Okay. And what we see is that the life experience that people are getting going through this training and traveling, and then they stay in an apartment, okay, and everybody has a bedroom, right, and they share 2 bedrooms per apartment. all of this just adds to the experience that people need to have in order to, one day have a job and live somewhere that is not going to be necessarily at home. So this process of the pre-employment training, again, is very sustainable for us because we have these partnerships that we have formed over the years. Once people wrap up that training, again, they go on the bench, that's what we call it, right? And they start looking for jobs. In some cases, our company might not be hiring as intensely as maybe months before, or maybe it's like any other business.
Right.
We look at, we have a need and we hire more people.
You have shareholders, you have to be,
absolutely.
You have a fiduciary responsibility.
We do, absolutely. And that is something that is important to keep in mind here. So the investment that people are making of time is something that if I change my hat from program director to parent, and I live in Austin, Texas, and if somebody was to offer my son an opportunity to be in an enterprise environment for 6 weeks, even if he doesn't get a job, I would sign for it right away.
Absolutely.
Because it provides him with, something that they actually put in their resume. Okay.
Well, and it's an experience.
It's
a professional experience.
It is very much that. Okay. So when people finish, they have this collection of experiences from enterprise etiquette, enterprise soft skills, which are different than high school soft skills, right? We talk about all these things, how to participate in meetings, whether they are online or not. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in this class. And then we also talk about what is our innovation methodology, which is called the design thinking. We go into our products at a high level, right? We talk about how our company is organized. We talk to people about what our department does, because we have had people that come in asking us after they graduate from college, what does HR do? Okay. So a lot of folks have not had enterprise experiences before, and we're trying to get them caught up. So when they wrap up the training and they have this interview, that they have a meaningful conversation with the hiring manager, okay, about SAP and about the mission, the things that you and I do to prepare for an interview. Mm-hmm. Go out and research on the web what a company does. It's not something that a lot of people in the spectrum naturally do. So what we do is we bring it to them, right? And then we have that opportunity to put them in front of a manager when an opening is available.
And how do you cultivate the managers to be successful in having this atypical person come into their environment? And what has SAP done to ensure that, okay, you're investing a lot in the individual itself, but you still have to invest a lot in the overall organization?
We have various levels of training for managers. Right now, we are at that transition point where we're making a training available to anybody who becomes a manager at SAP, knowledgeable about autism at work. It's a 1-hour training, raises that first step of awareness. Let's take the case of somebody that wraps up the training for us, applies for a job, and they are able to land an interview. Immediately after that, what we do is we get in touch with the manager, and we say we have somebody who needs an accommodation. They are in the spectrum, because we have the disclosure authorization from the individual to do this, right, and for the support. And what we do then is we have a 1-hour session with the managers where we explain what the Autism at Work program does, and we have basically an interview guidelines for interviewing somebody in the spectrum. Okay, and it is a fast interaction with the managers, with the understanding that if the individual requires an accommodated interview, that accommodation may call for a third party, somebody from the Autism at Work team, to be part of the interview to facilitate that conversation. As part of the interview protocol, we say we need to know what are going to be the schedules that we're going to have, who's going to come into the room, what are the names, what are the titles, no surprises, and we need to know what types of questions, if not the actual questions that will be asked of our colleagues. It's been, when I look at the interview process that we have today, where people are asked surprise questions like how many bubble gum you can put in a swimming pool, those are questions that are meant to filter people out, not filter people in. So what we're trying to move towards is an interview process where people show up with the portfolio, okay, that the portfolio is made available to the manager ahead of time of things that this individual has built, maybe through the training process that we have done.
Sure.
So
I'm sure that gives you a very good snapshot of where their talents lie.
Absolutely. So we are in that phase of the program where we're trying to transform the interview experience for colleagues in the autism spectrum. We introduce sensory breaks as needed. Okay, no more than 2 people per interview. Interviews cannot last longer than X amount of time. It becomes important also for the individual to, if they need an accommodation for writing, for example, or to come up with PowerPoint presentations or whatever that we give the individual, whatever means is necessary for them to express what their skills are, right? And that once the manager says, okay, I looked at the skills of this individual and they have the skills to help us out and be part of the team, then we have an autism awareness training for the team and for the manager. We consult with our colleagues in the autism spectrum what degree of openness they want to have, because
Sure.
it's a privacy thing.
Absolutely.
And if they tell us, I only want the manager to know,
Right.
Then we help them elaborate what we call a work style profile. Okay, and basically this is autism free. It's a document that is owned by the individual, and it will include things that they need in order to be successful. Okay, and that is something that we started to introduce, in the latter part of that year for new people that are joining SAP. And it's a constant evolution of our practices, right?
I'm sure it always changes. And I want to be sensitive to your time needs because I know that you are on schedule to give a presentation here at the offices today. So we just have a couple of minutes left.
Okay.
And I wanted to see if you could address 2 things for me. I'd love to hear how you feel this has impacted SAP as a whole in serving its clients and its community. And secondly, if you can just touch real quickly on the summit that you're a part of. I think that would be really nice to hear about as well.
Absolutely. So, we started this program with the idea of getting the best talent that we can from the industry. And I think it's touched us in so many ways, very positive ways. There's been challenges as well, okay, implementing the program, as always there are. But the overall experience has been extremely positive.
Well, I think the retention rate demonstrates that clearly.
I think so.
Without a doubt.
So.
I mean, that's a hard statistic.
I think so. I mean, that's something that we look at and we feel very, very proud of. But one of the things that we had not anticipated that would happen would be the interest from the community and other employers. We've had in the U.S. alone more than 250 companies have approached us interested in learning about the program. And together with Microsoft and JP Morgan Chase and EY and other companies, we have created something that is called the Employer Roundtable. These are all companies that have started autism hiring programs. And the idea is that we exchange practices and exchange information to continue to improve the way that we hire and retain individuals in the autism spectrum. It's something, quite frankly, I think unprecedented, that we are seeing the level of collaboration from these companies for very good. Yeah. The other thing is, in 2016 we launched the Autism at Work Summit. We were having so many conversations with so many people about these programs, and there was so much interest. They will be coming from private sector, from public sector, from academia, from K-12 education systems, philanthropists, civil societies, from everywhere. And I felt that we were all trying to row in the same direction. But there were so many parallel conversations taking place that we kind of took a leap of faith and created, in a very fast fashion, with 3 months of preparation, the first Autism at Work Summit in Newtown.
In 3 months.
In 3 months.
SAP doesn't mess around.
No, we actually, this was an interesting thing.
deadlines.
Yes, I was talking to Gabby Robertson from our team and Peg Monahan from our team. I said, guys, we need to have this summit in March. And said, well, they said March in next year, right? And I said, no, March in 3 months. and I said, we can do it. We can do it. So we invited people. They were just wonderful folks that came in to exchange experiences. We had Microsoft, and we had EY, and we have Hewlett-Packard, DXC, come and present their programs. And the next year, Microsoft said, we would love to have an opportunity to co-sponsor this, and so did JP Morgan Chase and EY and Ford Motor Company.
Amazing.
And we launched the second summit in the Bay Area in Palo Alto, and we were fortunate enough to have Stanford University host the first evening in their autism center. Folks collaborated with us on that. We're very grateful to Dr. Lawrence Fong from Stanford, who has been a huge supporter, and now they are implementing their own hiring program at Stanford University. So we triggered it there. We had about 400 or 500 people participate. Then we moved the event to Palo Alto, SAP headquarters, where we had another 250 people. Next year, Microsoft was very enthusiastic about hosting the event. So we said, why don't you host it this year? And then what happened next is the summit propagated to New Zealand, to Australia, and to India in partnership with the JP Morgan Chase and with the DXC. And then this year we are expanding into Argentina and Brazil with JP Morgan Chase and probably other partners. In the United States, we have now an east and a west because there was not enough seats in the first summit.
It's all booked.
It's all completely booked. So it's been a huge success. And this year's theme is going to be jobs across abilities and across industries.
I just got chills.
Because we were told by people, well, you are hiring only people in certain types of profiles. But the reality is that we're hiring people into core functions of our company. And we just happen to be a high-tech company. So what we believe is that if other companies, whether you're a bakery or a flower shop, that are your core business is to bake bread and to make flower arrangements, you'll find somebody in the autism spectrum that will be pretty awesome at doing those things.
Well, and I always, of course, think about what my daughter's future is, and the future might not be at SAP, but she could possibly have a future somewhere else because of the partnerships that you're creating, with this huge endeavor. And I think it's so selfless of SAP to share the journey of what they've done and encourage employers everywhere to seek this out. And I couldn't be more humbled by that effort. And I think that it's just a demonstration that SAP isn't just an innovator in technology, they're an innovator in people and the community.
I
huge.
think absolutely. I think that when we look at this, we looked at the program as, and thank you so much for your kind words. We look at this program, or started as SAP as a product innovator, okay? But then we realized that this is an SAP as a workplace innovator. And then we said, we really need to go the extra mile and become SAP as a social innovator. And I think that if we connect those three things, then you have the reason for purpose. You can explain it in a very natural way, in a way that makes sense for a company that is a for-profit company, but also is a purpose-driven company.
Well, I could sit here for hours and carry on this conversation, but I know you have a busy day, and I'm so grateful for the time that you have been able to share with us. And I think that listeners are going to be really motivated and inspired by what you and what the company are doing. And Jose, thank you for being on Whip with Jen.
Thank you so much for hosting this wonderful conversation. A big shout out to all parents out there. Hang in there. Things are changing.
They're warriors.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
All the best. Thank you.
This was Jen.